Hello and welcome to MRCPsych on the Go Revision Essentials. My name is Dr. Alapa Surlicker and I'm a psychiatry trainee in the west of Scotland. Like many of you, I spent a lot of time commuting. This was valuable time that I could have spent revising for the MRCPsych examination. And so, I've started this podcast to help you revise on the go. Each episode breaks down one high-yield topic mapped to the syllabus. This is then followed by 5 questions to help reinforce your learning. So, grab your headphones, turn travel time into revision time, and let's get started. In episode 18, we introduced motivation and explored extrinsic theories, including drive reduction theory, homeostasis, and the hypothalamic regulation of hunger and satiety. In this episode, we examine intrinsic theories of motivation, which propose that behaviour is not always driven by biological deficits, but by the desire for stimulation, exploration, and mastery. Intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in behaviour because it is inherently satisfying, interesting, or enjoyable, rather than to obtain an external reward or reduce a biological drive. Examples include reading for pleasure, exploring a new environment, or engaging in creative activities. Research has shown that introducing external rewards for intrinsically motivated behaviour can sometimes reduce motivation. This is known as the overjustification effect. When individuals are rewarded for activities they already enjoy, they may begin to attribute their behaviour to the reward rather than to their own interest, reducing their intrinsic motivation over time. Remember, intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in behaviour because it is inherently satisfying, independent of external rewards. Introducing external rewards for intrinsically motivated behaviour can reduce intrinsic motivation through the overjustification effect. One important intrinsic motivator is curiosity. Curiosity refers to the desire to seek out new information, explore novel environments, and resolve uncertainty. Daniel Berlyne, a pioneer in the study of motivation, distinguished between 2 forms of curiosity. His inverted U hypothesis is the gold standard for understanding how we react to the world. Perceptual curiosity is aroused by novel, complex, or ambiguous stimuli in the environment, such as reacting to a weird noise in the woods or a bright, flashing neon sign. It motivates exploration and information-seeking behaviour and is evolutionary. Epistemic curiosity refers to the desire to acquire knowledge and resolve gaps in understanding. It's what drives you to finish a mystery novel or stay up until 2 a.m. reading Wikipedia articles about the history of salt. It motivates learning and intellectual exploration. Berlyne's idea of the zone of curiosity proposed that curiosity is aroused when there is an optimal level of novelty or complexity. Too little novelty produces boredom. Too much novelty produces anxiety or avoidance. Curiosity is highest at intermediate levels of complexity and novelty. Remember, curiosity is an intrinsic motivational force that drives exploration and information seeking. Berlyne identified perceptual curiosity, aroused by novel stimuli, and epistemic curiosity, which motivates knowledge acquisition. Closely related to curiosity is the concept of optimum levels of arousal. The Yerkes-Dodson Law, proposed in 1908, describes the relationship between arousal and performance. It proposes that there is an optimal level of arousal for performance. Both too little arousal and too much arousal impair performance. Performance is best at intermediate levels of arousal. The optimal level of arousal also varies depending on task complexity. Simple tasks are performed best under higher arousal. For example, if you're doing something repetitive like folding laundry, you need high arousal like loud music to keep from dipping into boredom and making errors. Complex tasks are performed best under lower arousal. If you're learning a difficult new coding language, your cognitive load is already high. Added arousal, like loud music, will push you over the peak of the curve into anxiety, known as choking. This law suggests that individuals are not simply motivated to reduce arousal, as drive reduction theory proposes. Instead, individuals are motivated to seek and maintain an optimal level of arousal. This is why individuals sometimes seek out stimulating, novel, or exciting experiences, even when they are not in a state of biological deficit. Remember, the Yerkes-Dodson Law proposes that performance is best at intermediate levels of arousal. Individuals are motivated to seek and maintain an optimum level of arousal, not simply to reduce it. Drive reduction theory, which we learnt about in the previous episode, has several important limitations. First, it cannot fully explain behaviour that increases arousal rather than reducing it. People seek out horror films, roller coasters, and intense exercise, none of which reduce a biological drive. Second, it does not account for the role of curiosity, exploration, and the desire for novelty in motivating behaviour. Third, it struggles to explain motivation in the absence of biological deprivation. Individuals may work hard, create art, or pursue relationships even when all primary biological needs are satisfied. Finally, drive reduction theory does not adequately address cognitive or social factors in motivation, such as goals, values, and expectations. Remember, drive reduction theory cannot fully explain arousal-seeking behaviour, curiosity, or motivation in the absence of biological need. This gap in drive reduction theory led researchers to a new conclusion. Instead of just trying to quiet our bodies, we are actually trying to tune our brains. In the 1950s, psychologist Donald Hebb took the Yerkes-Dodson Law a step further by proposing the arousal theory of motivation. Hebb argued that our brains have an optimal level of arousal that we are constantly trying to maintain. Think of it like a thermostat for your nervous system. If the temperature of your environment is too low, meaning it's boring or predictable, you feel under-aroused. This triggers a drive to seek out stimulation, like turning on the radio or starting a conversation. If the environment is too hot, meaning it's chaotic or overwhelming, you feel over-aroused. This triggers a drive to reduce stimulation, like leaving a crowded party or closing your eyes to concentrate. Hebb's breakthrough was shifting our focus from the stomach and the muscles to the brain. He linked arousal to the reticular activating system, a part of the brain that controls wakefulness and attention. This explains why rest isn't always the goal. The human brain is biologically hungry for information. It needs a certain amount of noise to function at its peak. This theory helps us understand the thrill seeker and the bookworm alike. They aren't just different personalities, they are individuals with different biological set points for what feels like optimal arousal. Remember, arousal theory proposes that we are driven to maintain a sweet spot of stimulation. We aren't just looking for peace and quiet, we are looking for the right amount of challenge and excitement. Several psychologists have attempted to develop more integrated models of motivation that account for both extrinsic and intrinsic factors. Self-determination theory, developed by DC and Ryan, proposes that individuals have three core psychological needs. First is autonomy. This is the need to feel like the author of your own life. When you feel forced to do something, your autonomy drops and your intrinsic spark begins to fade. Second is competence. This is the need to feel that you are good at what you do. It's that feeling of mastery you get when you finally solve a difficult puzzle or hit a perfect golf shot. And third is relatedness. This is our need to feel connected to others. We are more motivated when we feel our work or our play matters to the people around us. According to self-determination theory, intrinsic motivation is highest when these needs are met. External pressures that undermine autonomy or competence reduce intrinsic motivation and well-being. This framework integrates biological drives with psychological and social needs, offering a more comprehensive account of human motivation. This theory also explains the overjustification effect we talked about earlier. When you pay someone for a hobby, you are accidentally attacking their autonomy. They no longer feel like they are doing it because they want to. They feel like they are doing it because the money wants them to. Remember, self-determination theory integrates extrinsic and intrinsic motivation by proposing three core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Understanding intrinsic motivation and arousal is clinically relevant in several ways. Loss of intrinsic motivation and anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure, are core features of depressive disorders. Behavioural activation in cognitive behavioural therapy aims to re-engage individuals with intrinsically rewarding activities. Additionally, excessive arousal-seeking behaviour may be relevant to understanding impulsivity, risk-taking, and certain personality disorders. Now, let's test your recall. I will read out 5 exam-style questions. After each one, I will pause for 10 seconds so you can attempt them before hearing the answer. Question 1. What is intrinsic motivation? Engaging in behaviour because it is inherently satisfying independent of external rewards. Question 2. What is the overjustification effect? The reduction of intrinsic motivation following the introduction of external rewards for an already enjoyable activity. Question 3. What 2 types of curiosity did Berlyne describe? Perceptual curiosity, aroused by novel stimuli, and epistemic curiosity, which motivates knowledge acquisition. Question 4. What does the Yerkes-Dodson Law describe? The relationship between arousal and performance, with optimal performance at intermediate levels of arousal. Question 5. What are the 3 core psychological needs in self-determination theory? autonomy, competence and relatedness. Let's summarise what we have learnt today. Intrinsic motivation refers to behaviour driven by internal satisfaction, curiosity and the desire for stimulation, rather than external rewards or biological drives. Berlyne described perceptual and epistemic curiosity as important motivational forces that drive exploration and learning. The Yerkes-Dodson Law proposes that performance is optimal at intermediate levels of arousal, suggesting that individuals seek to maintain an optimal arousal level rather than simply reduce drives. Drive reduction theory has important limitations, particularly in explaining curiosity, arousal seeking, and motivation in the absence of biological need. Self-determination theory integrates extrinsic and intrinsic perspectives by proposing three core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And that concludes this episode, where intrinsic motivation, curiosity, and optimal arousal provide a more complete account of behaviour beyond simple drive reduction. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of MRCPsych on the Go Revision Essentials. I hope this episode helped to move your revision forward. If you have any questions or just want to continue the discussion, you can find me on LinkedIn at MRCPsych on the Go, spelled MRCPysch on the Go. This podcast is about making revision accessible. If you found it useful, liking and sharing it with others helps the goal more than anything else. That's it for today. I'm Dr. Alapis Ehrlicher, and as always, keep revising on the go.